installing the intermediate CA. So here we are on yet another Windows 2003 server running in a workgroup, and we've called this server here CA.inter so we can identify it as an intermediate CA. Now we've also pre-installed IIS, so we won't have to worry about that step either. So what we'll do now is we'll click on Start, Control Panel, Add or Remove Programs, and again we'll go to Add Remove Windows Components. Now we'll click on Certificate Services, we'll click Yes here because we've already discussed this message, and then we'll click on Next. Now this time we'll install a standalone subordinate CA. So we'll click this box here, we'll leave the default settings here, we won't use custom settings, and we'll choose Next. Now we need to enter in a name for our CA, so we'll call this one CA.inter, and we'll click Next. Now again we'll just accept the default paths for our database and database log, and of course our shared folder over here, so we'll choose Next. Now because this is a subordinate CA, we will need to be issued with a certificate from the root CA. Now we can do this one of two ways. We can either contact the root CA directly using the default option here, or we can save the request to a file, take the file over to the root CA, and then issue the request locally on that server. So if your root CA is not live on your network because you've followed the suggestions earlier in this video, you might have to choose this second option. But as our root CA is live on our network at the moment, we can just connect to the server and issue the request. So in the computer name field, we can simply enter the name of our root CA and hit Tab, and the root CA will automatically be populated here in the parent CA field. Now what this has actually done behind the scenes, the wizard's actually just gone out and contacted CA root to ensure that it can actually connect to it. Now we can actually demonstrate this, of course, by entering a name of something like this that doesn't actually exist. If we hit Tab, we can see we actually can't ping the selected CA, so we do have a problem there. So we'll enter again CA root, and we'll hit Tab, and of course yes, we can ping that, so everything seems to be fine. So what we'll do now is we'll click Next, and it says here to complete the installation we've got to stop IIS. So do we want to stop it? Well, yes we do, because we do want to complete this installation, so we'll click Yes. And now we can see that the Windows wizard will start copying the files across to our CA. So we'll just pause this video here and we'll return when the files have copied. Now we're told that the CA certificate request is in a pending state. Now what this means is we need to obtain a certificate from our root CA. Next we're told that the installation of the certificate services is incomplete, and that to complete the installation we will need to obtain a certificate from our root CA, so we'll just click OK to get rid of this message, and again we'll complete this step in a moment as well. Now finally we get a message that tells us that if we haven't allowed the use of ASP in the IIS manager, we get a message like this that says, well, we need to enable it if we want to use the web enrollment support. Now we can do this right now by clicking on Yes, or we can go to the IIS manager and do it ourselves later if we wish. Well, we'll just choose Yes because it's a little bit easier, and then in a few moments the wizard will be finished. Okay, and it's done. So we'll click Finish and we'll close this down. Now let's go and fix the first issue we had of the pending certificate. Here we are back on our root CA, so what we need to do is go to our pending certificates folder, and in here we can see that we do actually have a request that's been issued from our inter CA to our root CA. Now if we do want to issue the certificate to our intermediate CA, we can simply right click on this certificate, select all tasks, and then select Issue. Now the certificate disappears from our pending certificates folder, and then it will appear in our issued certificates folder, as we can see here. Now the second step we needed to perform was to right click on the certificate itself and select Open. On the Details tab, we need to select Copy to File. Now this opens up a short wizard which just allows us to export this certificate to a file. Now what we'll do here is we'll select this third option, Cryptographic Message Standard PKCS7, and underneath, once we select this, we can also include all certificates in the certification path if possible, so we'll check that box and then we'll click Next. Now we need to provide a file name and a path to export the certificate. So we'll simply just call this one CA.inter, and we'll click Next. Now we just get a brief summary saying we've successfully completed this certificate export. We can see over here the file name, which has been saved as CA.inter.p7b, and whether we exported any keys or so on and so forth. So we'll just click Finish. We can see the export was successful, and now we'll just click OK. Now here we are back on our intermediate CA. We'll click on Start, Administrative Tools, and go to our Certification Authority MMC. Now I'll just expand this to make it a little easier to see. Now we've got a problem. See, at this point we can't start the certificate services until we have a certificate installed, and this is why we can see a little red square over our icon here which indicates that our certificate services are not running. So what we need to do is right click, select all tasks, and then install a CA certificate. So we'll need to now type in the path to the certificate that we exported from our root CA a moment ago. So we'll type in the network path to our CA root $C$/CAinter.P7B, and then we'll click on Open. Now this will take just a few moments. Now we can right click again on our CA Inter, select all tasks, and then start the certificate service. Now we're successfully able to start the certificate service, and we'll see in a moment that this red square has been replaced by a healthy looking green tick indicating that our certificate service is now functional. So if we right click on our CA Inter again and select Properties, on the General tab we can see that the certificate number for this intermediate CA is the first certificate as indicated by the certificate number of 0. Now if we click on View Certificate, we can see that the issuer of this certificate was CA root. And if we click on Certification Path, we can see that the hierarchy shows that CA root is the parent of CA Inter. Okay, so with that all done and all working as planned, what we'll do now is we'll move on to our third server that we need to configure, the issuing CA. Now this will be a member of an Active Directory domain.